I could hardly believe it when the bold stranger strutted up to our table as though the entire place belonged to him. Without a hint of doubt, he seized my unfaithful wife's hand, leaned close with a crooked grin and murmured, "Why waste time with this weakling? Come dance with me first, then I'll show you what a real man feels like." His smugness tainted the air like rot. I steadied my breathing, my face unreadable, my pulse even, though every fiber of me was wound tight, ready to strike. With emotion drilled into me countless times, I gripped his wrist and twisted hard. The sharp crack of bone splitting apart echoed through the restaurant like a gunshot. He dropped to the ground, shrieking, clutching his broken hand, while horrified gasps spread among the diners. The restaurant itself was elegance carved in stone. Amber light from hanging chandeliers draped the polished mahogany tables in golden warmth. Crystal glasses glittered, and soft piano chords floated lazily across the room. It was a sanctuary for high-stake deals sealed over vintage wine, or whispered toasts shared in shadowed corners. Once I had relished that kind of luxury. Tonight it felt suffocating like velvet-wrapped chains. Across from me, Amal looked flawless, every detail polished to perfection. Her dark hair fell in deliberate waves, her crimson lipstick matching the satin gown that traced her shape with practiced grace. But the longer I stared, the more her beauty seemed like an elaborate disguise. Behind her eyes, carefully painted and unreadable, lingered a hollow void, one that had been widening for months. Our marriage had endured for years, yet the past 6 months had been a slow unraveling. Endless nights at her law office, hushed phone calls silenced when I entered the room, excuses layered atop excuses. I convinced myself that tonight would heal the divide. A quiet dinner, a chance to reconnect. I was mistaken. The shadow that loomed across our table struck me as a warning. I looked up to see him, mid-30s, tall, broad, arrogance rolling off him like smoke. His tailored navy suit clung to his frame, his tie fastened with clinical precision. Piercing blue eyes slid past me as though I were invisible and locked onto my wife. "Amal," he said, his voice a poisoned blend of charm and mockery. "I didn't expect to run into you here tonight." She froze, her glass halfway to her lips, eyes flickering between him and me before she found her voice. "Lucas," she whispered, her hesitation betraying more than she meant. "What are you doing here?" "Enjoying the city," he replied with a smirk. Then, without sparing me a glance, he clutched her hand and added with venomous pride, "Why bother with him? Come dance, and I'll show you what I can give." The murmur of the crowd died instantly. The restaurant became a stage, every gaze fixed on us. Amal tugged at her hand, but Lucas's grip tightened. My anger cooled into a deadly focus. I stood slowly, the scrape of my chair against the floor cutting through the silence. "You have 3 seconds to release her," I said, my tone calm yet sharp as steel. He turned, lips curling into a smirk. "And if I don't?" I answered with action. My hand clamped onto his wrist, weight and force driving the motion. A sickening snap echoed against the ceiling. His face twisted in agony as he fell, clutching the ruined limb, cries tearing through the air. Amal gasped, her expression torn between fear, disbelief, and something I refused to name. Diners sat frozen, utensils hovering midair. She leaned toward me, her voice breaking. "Magnus, what are you doing?" I ignored her, crouching low until my eyes locked on Lucas's pain-clouded stare. My voice dropped to a growl. "This is just the start. You made the wrong move tonight. I'll make sure you regret this." His jaw tightened around the pain. "You'll pay for that," he spat. I rose and turned to Amal, who remained frozen. "Let's go," she faltered, her eyes flicking between us. "Now," I said, my voice slicing through her doubt. She stood on unsteady legs, the click of her heels loud in the electric air, and trailed after me. Behind us, murmurs swelled like thunder rolling in. The drive home was claustrophobic. The silence pressed so hard it felt like it might crush the breath from the car. Amal sat stiff, fingers threaded tight in her lap, her gaze fixed ahead. When we pulled into the garage, I killed the engine and faced her. "Talk," I ordered, my tone steady but as cold as ice. She flinched, the veneer of control beginning to fracture. "Magnus, I don't know what you want me to say," she whispered, eyes on her hands. "I want the truth." I leaned in, my voice deadly calm. "Who is he? How long has this been going on?" Tears gathered at her lashes, but they no longer moved me. Whatever sympathy I had once felt had long since burned off. "It's complicated," she started. I laughed, a bitter, cutting sound. "Let me make it simple. Tell me everything now, or I'll find out myself. And believe me, you won't like my methods." Her shoulders dropped in surrender. 6 months, she breathed. "Began 6 months ago." Even though I'd suspected it, hearing it was like a blade sliding through my chest. I forced my breath to remain steady. "And tonight, was this supposed to shame me in public, to rub it in my face?" "I didn't expect him to be there, Magnus. Swear." My voice sliced through her protest like breaking glass. "I saw how you looked at him. You knew." Her sobs filled the small space, but I stared straight ahead, my thoughts already moving from pain to planning. By morning I had a plan laid out in my office. The Geneva skyline glittered beneath a pale winter sun as I mapped each step. I began with Lucas. His social feeds painted a life of wealth and power. Private jets, flashy cars, champagne nights. But I knew glitter often hid rot. Within hours, my contacts in finance who owed me favors had uncovered the truth. Failed schemes, pending lawsuits, crippling debts and desperate investments he couldn't sustain. Then I turned to Amal while she carried on as if nothing had changed. I collected everything: emails, texts, photos, enough proof to strip away whatever mask she clung to. I locked it away, not from spite but for leverage. When I was ready, I moved. Lucas was invited to an exclusive charity gala brimming with Geneva's elite. That same day, a journalist with a taste for scandal received a full dossier on his misdeeds. By night's end his name was on every headline. Fraud, extortion, exploitation. Accounts frozen, assets seized, allies abandoning him one after another. For Amal, the reckoning came when I slid the divorce papers across the table. She tried to plead, but the evidence spoke louder than her words. Our prenup guaranteed she left with nothing. No money, and not even the reputation she once wore so easily, which crumbled under society's whispers. When we signed the last papers in court, she was a hollow version of the woman I had known. "Magnus," she said softly as we stepped outside. "I know I hurt you, but was this really necessary?" I met her look without wavering. "Choices have consequences." She nodded, tears clinging to her lashes, and walked away. Months later, life had steadied. My house was calm, freed from the poisonous strain that had lived there. I buried myself in work, expanding my company across Europe. The sting of betrayal faded into a clean scar, a reminder of what I had survived and conquered. At another charity event, someone tapped my shoulder. I turned to meet a woman whose elegance was quiet and whose confidence felt natural. "Mr. Adler," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Isabelle Fournier, a historian. I've heard of your work." We talked for hours. Her intelligence was unforced, her humor genuine. For the first time in a long while, something real stirred within me. Later, on my balcony with the city lights stretching out, I raised a glass to the dark sky. Betrayal had nearly broken me, but it had also reshaped me, made me tougher. Pain refines us. Strength forges us. Renewal rebuilds us. I turned to go inside, leaving that promise hanging in the night air.